Nole insiders Lane Hurt and Tim Lenefelt here high atop Doak Campbell Stadium. The Orange Bowl is getting closer. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer. So we decided maybe it's time to talk about some of the storylines to expect when we get to bowl week. And you have to start with number one, Dalvin Cook, consensus All-American right now, heading down to Miami, where he's from. Always played well, facing a tough Michigan defense.
Yeah, Michigan ranks second in total defense, only behind Alabama, and we all know how good defensively they are, and really how good Michigan is. So, you know, they really don't need much of an introduction in that sense. But Dalvin Cook playing in Miami should be a special scene. As we all know, it's his hometown. We've seen the sample size of 2 games against the Miami Hurricanes, just how much he likes playing down there. I'm going to go ahead and assume that will translate, even though the team on the opposing sideline now is going to be Michigan instead of Miami. And there's also the fact that, and Jimbo Fisher acknowledged it during his conference call a few weeks ago, that as a junior, Dalvin Cook is eligible to enter the NFL draft, so there's at least a chance.
He is?
Yeah, can you believe it? So there's at least a chance that this could be his last collegiate game, and so we'll see how that goes. I know Florida State guys typically don't make that announcement until after the bowl games, and I would expect that to remain the same here. But it does seem like a pretty, I don't know, fairy tale is the word, but the chance to play a team like Michigan in an Orange Bowl setting in your hometown is a pretty neat opportunity for Dalvin Cook.
We talk about Michigan's defense, talk about it a little bit more. They're second in the nation in sacks behind Florida State of all schools. Florida State's offensive line looked really good against a great Florida team in pass rush. This is an even bigger test.
Yeah, it is. And you mentioned it. I thought that by the end of the season, Florida State's offensive line had found a starting 5 that seemed to work pretty well, and played, I thought, maybe one of their best games of the season against Florida. And so now the question is, given several weeks to practice, and the team returned to practice this week, do you stick with that same starting 5? I would imagine that you will. And then can they get better? Can they continue to improve, and what can they get better with? Because as good as Florida's defensive line and defensive front is, I think they were sort of hamstrung by the fact that offense struggled to move the ball so much that over the course of a game you're just going to wear down. You're going to lose motivation. You're going to lose your physical strength just from being on the field so much. Well, Michigan can move the ball better than Florida's offense can. They're not, I think they're in the 40s in total offense, so they're not a dynamic, high flying group by any means. But compared to what we saw here a couple weeks ago with Florida, they might as well be the 2000 Rams or something. That's a weird reference, but
greatest show on turf.
We won't even get down that digression why that came up. But anyway, so yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I think it's going to be a really good defense, and so we talk about Dalvin Cook having an opportunity. So does Florida State's offensive line, not only to play well in this, but to carry over that momentum into next year.
To flip the script now and looking at the other matchups, Florida State's defense, much maligned early in the season, really improved down the stretch. I think most people have agreed that they did improve in some areas. Now Michigan, not a great offense, ranked 46th in the country, but this is a top 10 team, top 5. I mean, we're talking inches away from them being in the playoff, and us talking about playing Urban Meyer and Ohio State or reinvigorated James Franklin Penn State team.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is going to be another challenge, especially since this is a well-coached group that is going to come out with a really good game plan.
Yeah, and that was the questions. It's funny because Florida State over the last couple of years, especially in bowl games against Houston and Northern Illinois in the last handful of years, the questions centered around, will Florida State be motivated for this game? Will they be up to play? And now it's sort of funny seeing those same questions being asked in Michigan, and with the storyline being the effect of, you were so close to playing in the playoff. Are you going to care about playing in a non-playoff game? Never mind that it's an Orange Bowl against a marquee opponent like Florida State. Does not being in the playoff matter? And Jim Harbaugh, to his credit, and I think it's what you would expect him to say, so well, they better be. And I think there's something to that. And I expect Michigan to be motivated and ready to play because, like we said, it's a marquee opponent, a big-time bowl game. I think most of the guys that rank the bowl games have the list of which ones are the best ones, which ones are worth skipping out on your family at Christmas time or whatever to find a way to watch. And outside of the playoff games, I think just about everybody has this one right there. So I think all eyes of the college football world are going to be watching this. Anytime you get Florida State and Michigan together, there's going to be plenty of attention. So I think Michigan's going to want to win this game, and yeah, it's going to be. I expect them to be ready. I think this is a really good team. Like you said, they were this close to beating the playoff team. The Iowa game. That game was closer than the final score ended up being, and weird game, road game on the night or at night. That could easily be a playoff team. So it's a big test for Florida State. I think it's a good measuring stick to see. Bowl games can be a little weird in that respect. But if Florida State can beat this team heading into next year, that's a huge boost going forward.
And finally, the head coaching matchup. Jimbo Fisher, we talk about him every time we get on camera, but Jim Harbaugh, we're talking about a guy who's revitalized this program, has people excited about Michigan football for the first time in a long time. Mercurial? Is that a good
I think
word?
so. I think so.
Doesn't talk a lot, but when he does, there's always going to fill up a quote book. And he's an interesting guy. I think we're all kind of anxious for that press conference with Jimbo Fisher and Jim Harbaugh. Just hear what the guy has to say.
Yeah, and it's funny because Jimbo Fisher and Jim Harbaugh, I think, both consider to be some in the elite tier of college football head coaches, but they're really kind of polar opposites in a lot of ways. And Jimbo's has a southern feel to him. I know he's from West Virginia, but you really associate him, I think, with the southeastern footprint of the United States, and then kind of the way he talks and his sort of charm. And then Harbaugh has the much different vibe, with the glasses and the khakis, and maybe some more West Coast sensibilities after spending time at Stanford and with the 49ers. So it's just a complete different contrast in styles, although football-wise, it's actually maybe a little bit closer than some of Florida State's other opponents, but in the way that they sort of talk to the media and handle their public personas, it's way different. So it'll be fun to watch those two styles kind of, I don't know if clash is the word, but just see how they fit together during that week down in Miami.
Well, there you go, Seminole fans. There's something to whet your appetite before we ramp up bowl coverage. We'll have a lot more coming as Florida State gets ready to head down to Miami for the Orange Bowl. So for now, Tim, I'm Lane. Go Noles.